Newgrounds. Just hearing that name is enough to stir a wave of nostalgia in thousands of early internet users, bringing back vivid memories of a more creative and daring era of the internet, a time often celebrated as the golden age of online culture. It's an iconic online platform that has played a pivotal role in evolution of internet culture and independent content creation, with it allowing anyone and everyone to upload their content onto the site. With animations like Salad Fingers, Animator vs. Animation, Charlie the Unicorn, games like Pico's School, Fancy Pants, and Alien Hominid, all different flavors of art and music. Newgrounds was the hub for anything and everything, the YouTube before YouTube. The story of Newgrounds begins back in the early 90s with a 13-year-old boy born and raised in Percy, Pennsylvania by the name of Tom Fulp. In 1991, Tom created a Neo Geo fanzine, distributing it to 100 members of a club that had formed on the online service called Prodigy. A Neo Geo fanzine is a fan-made magazine that is dedicated to the Neo Geo game console and arcade system, and Prodigy was one of the major internet service providers back in the 90s. 4 years later, in 1995, Tom experimented with sharing his creations on the internet. Tom launched a website called Newground Remix using a hosting service. It was on this site that he published his newly created games Club of Seal and Assassin while he was still studying at Drexel University. Sometime after, he would create yet another site called Newground Atomics, where he hosted sequels to his games Club of Seal 2 and Assassin 2. These early websites captured the growing interest in interactive online content and laid the groundwork for what would eventually become Newgrounds. In 1999, Tom merged the two sites under a single domain, newgrounds.com. This domain change, along with one other factor, was driving so much traffic to the site that it felt like Tom was upgrading to a new host every few months. The other factor was the introduction of his latest game, Pico's School, which, in the words of Tom himself, was hailed by many as the pinnacle of Flash 3 programming. While Pico's School's controversial nature had caused Tom to receive some backlash, the release of this game was a defining moment in the growth of Newgrounds, and to this day, Pico is still one of the biggest and most beloved mascots within the community. In the same year that the Newgrounds domain was acquired, what would soon become arguably the most important feature ever added to the site was also created, the portal. At first, the portal served as a sort of hub for Tom to put his more unfinished and smaller projects, but eventually, many people would begin reaching out to him with their own Flash content that they wanted to showcase, but had no place to do so. And so, Tom would begin to showcase other people's projects onto the portal, but the amount of requests that Tom was getting to add people's submissions onto the portal eventually became too overwhelming as more and more people started to visit the site and became more addicted to it. Tom decided that the portal would need to become an automated system in order to keep up with all the requests that he had been receiving, and so, he hired his friend Ross to help him with the development of the automated portal. Ross had also worked on the Grounds Gold system for the site, which was a system that allowed users to gain points for visiting the site. This gold system would also mark the beginning of the new Grounds voting system where users could vote to protect or blam submissions. The automation of the portal was eventually completed and launched on April 6th in the year 2000. This evolution of the portal becoming an automated system was the cornerstone to the success of Newgrounds that would soon follow, as now, instead of having to wait for Tom to upload their submissions for them manually, anyone can upload their content onto the site and have it instantly displayed on the portal for all to see.
And other people were making Flash and, they wanted to get some spotlight. So I had a part of the site for just unfinished projects and stuff. I just started putting other people's stuff there when they would send me their files and they'd be like, hey, put this up. And it was called the portal. So I would just manually update the portal whenever someone would email me with their stuff. And eventually it was just every day I was just dealing with emails and building pages and maintaining, and people would send me their file updates and I'd be maintaining those, and it was just this can't continue like this. So that's when I worked with my friend Ross, who was a PHP programmer, and we made the automated version of the portal, which launched in 2000. And that was the first real-time content submission system on the web. And so we had games and movies getting submitted.
With virtually no barrier to entry, the next viral creation could be made by anyone with just a computer and a copy of Flash. It was also around this time that both Tom and Ross decided to drop out of college to work on developing Newgrounds full-time.
Everything. Everyone!
After the portal became automated, the number of creations posted onto Newgrounds began to skyrocket throughout the coming years along with the number of visitors. Many classic games, animations, music, and artworks were created and ended up becoming extremely iconic pieces of internet history. Here's a small list with some notable ones. Badgers, the Numa Numa Dance, Salad Fingers, Skull Kid, Madness, Alien Hominid, Dad and Me, Stick RPG, Zhao Zhao, Narwhals, Mario vs. Sonic, Super Smash Flash, The Impossible Quiz, Fancy Pants, the Henry Stickmin series, lots and lots of porn. Like an absurd amount. Like half of all films, games, and artwork on the site is just porn. There are just too many classic pieces of media that originated from Newgrounds to be able to list them all. Many large creators have also jump-started their careers by sharing their work on Newgrounds. For example, Chris O'Neill, better known as Uni, began as an animator on the platform. He later created two successful YouTube channels, UniNG, which was his animation channel, and Uni Plays, which is now his primary focus. Joining him as a sort of co-host on Uni Plays is Zach Hadel, also known as Psychic Pebbles. Like Uni, Zach started his career by uploading Flash animations to Newgrounds. He eventually transitioned to YouTube and went on to co-create the hit animated television show Smiling Friends.
This is gonna be great, Charlie. I love helping kids. I love kids, Charlie. I love kids!
Pim, I would really not be screaming that at the top of your lungs.
Tom Ska, Ego Raptor, JonTron, David Firth, Eddsworld, all creators whose story began on Newgrounds. And in terms of game developers getting their start on Newgrounds, we have Edmund McMillen, co-creator of Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac, Team Cherry, the creator of Hollow Knight, and even Tom Fulp himself launched his game development career through his own site, eventually co-founding the indie game studio The Behemoth, with their first game being Alien Hominids and then later going on to create absolute classics like Castle Crashers and BattleBlock Theater. Okay, well maybe not classics, but I'm not like 35, so they're sort of classics to me. I don't know. Newgrounds significantly influenced platforms like YouTube and Twitch by pioneering user-generated content, fostering active creator audience engagement, and showcasing innovative content curation through features like voting systems and daily awards. It championed independent creators, offering a space for all to thrive without traditional gatekeepers. The decline of Flash technology, due to the rise of HTML5 and mobile-friendly alternatives, threatened the platform's foundation. Competitors like YouTube and other social media platforms also emerged, shifting the focus away from centralized content hubs like Newgrounds. Thankfully, Fulp and his team had the foresight to see that Adobe Flash may not be around forever due to the controversy surrounding it, and in 2011 began implementing multiple contingencies such as the Swivel tool and their own video player for movies, as well as support for HTML5 games. Flash had many unaddressed security flaws and performance issues. Because of this, Google Chrome and Firefox would slowly begin phasing out and disabling its usage. This culminated in Adobe officially announcing in 2017 that they would be discontinuing support for Flash around the end of 2020, and by January 12, 2021, Flash was no longer usable. When 2019 rolled around, with just a year left until the end of Flash, Newgrounds launched their latest Newgrounds player, which Tom Fulp described as a streamlined desktop player for Flash content that works when browsers don't. With the Newgrounds player, old Flash content was able to be preserved and let the site maintain its rich archive of animations and games, as well as allowing people to continue to make new ones and use the site as if nothing happened. Despite these efforts, the decline of Flash marked a turning point as it coincided with the rising competitions from platforms like YouTube, which are better equipped for video content, and mobile gaming, which pulled attention away from browser-based games. While their transition to HTML5 and their own player helped Newgrounds remain functional, the loss of the Flash era simplicity and the charm led to a decrease in user activity.
Newgrounds.
Now, despite what I said about the decrease in user activity, Newgrounds' efforts to preserve its legacy and support indie creators have allowed it to maintain a loyal user base and continue contributing to online culture in a more niche capacity. Taking a look at the website now, I would say that it's still quite active with many community posts, games, artworks, and animations being posted onto the site pretty frequently and hit pretty high numbers. Although most of the popular ones are, again, just porn, like seriously, there's just so much porn. The most recent Newgrounds phenomenon that occurred was the huge insurgence of new users that signed up to specifically play the game Friday Night Funkin', which was released onto the site in 2020 by user NinjaMuffin99 and became the most played game in the site's history. Just goes to show that Newgrounds as a platform is still very capable of creating careers like it has many times in the past. As for Tom Fulp, he's still very active in the Newgrounds community, making posts and replying to community members almost every day on both Newgrounds and his social medias. He's also still hard at work making games at the Behemoth, with their most recent title being a game called Behemoth, released back in October 31st, 2024, which I just now learned about, and I mean, I'm literally just buying it right now. There's no way I wasn't going to buy a new Behemoth game. I mean, come on now. Newgrounds' legacy lies in its role as a foundation for online innovation and independent content. As one of the first platforms to embrace user-generated media, it provided a space where animators, game developers, artists, and musicians could experiment, collaborate, and reach a global audience. Its culture of irreverence and experimentation shaped the humor and style of early internet content, while its influence can be seen in the rise of platforms like YouTube and Twitch. By supporting creators and fostering community, Newgrounds cemented itself as a cornerstone of internet history.